Hey there, rock stars. Hey everyone, welcome to the stream. I'm literally only smiling because the comment section in the video is already hilarious. I love Crystal and Danette. They're like the best. Um, but this news is not so wonderful. Unfortunately. We were, I think, all pretty much really ready to shift gears for a second and start talking about Mia Marcano. We've been trying to cover her so many times and so many other cases. And we were in the Discord today, and I was like, Crystal had, I don't know if it was Crystal or Danette, somebody sent me a screenshot saying that, like, the FBI didn't think that they would be IDing the body today. And so I was like, okay, well, that's, you know, it is what it is. That'll give us opportunity to go ahead and talk about to talk about Mia's case instead, which I think is important. But instead, here we are again, which is insane. I think this revelation as to who the body is really, I can't even describe this feeling. But let me take the comments really quick before we get into it. The like fun, lighthearted comments. Um, Crystal was saying, "Hi, Danette. We made it." Crystal said she brought snacks. Did you bring anything with Mickey ears on it? That's what I'm interested in. That's 100% what I'm interested in. Danette brought the drinks. We're all set. Now I want popcorn. I have to have a little bit of a laugh before this whole like madness and like ensues. Crystal, of course, being sweet. Don't forget to hit the like button. It really helps others find the live. Um, Danette says done. Crystal says she's walking around with snacks and Danette's taking drinks. Come on and find a seat. The show will start soon. It was hilarious. But so now we're gonna get into it. Well, Dragon Man, welcome back. Nina, welcome back. I love that your profile is now Izzy. That's hilarious. It's a really good picture of Izzy too. And Wildcat joined the chat. Welcome, Wildcat. Thank you for coming around. And Project Achieva just popped in. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. Oh shoot, today really is Happy Back to the Future Day. Wild. The true fan has arrived. Nina says, I can go get some croquetas. That sounds, please hand me over the croquetas. That sounds great. I would love some. Crystal says, Mickey snacks are at least 15 per. We're going to need a cover charge. Oh man, you guys are hilarious. It's nice to have like fun people in the chat to like vibe off of and like have a good time and like laugh about things, even though this isn't like the nicest moment. But so I already pulled up the, let's see if this is a good view for you guys. I pulled up the WFLA coverage of this whole thing. I saw something earlier and now I need to find it. Um, where like Brian's family seemingly said some stuff about the situation, so I'm gonna have to find that. If anybody knows, I saw something and I think it was what I used in my thumbnail, which I have to double check now. But I saw something and it said, let me see if that was CNN from earlier. I think it was. Attorney reveals why Laundrie family didn't initially talk to, and I'm guessing FBI or police or law enforcement or whatever. So let me find that actually. See, I went back on here and it was gone, so I don't know what is going on, like why it's not showing up now, unless it's in here somewhere. This is all a bunch of random stuff. All right. Um, let me see what's going on around here. All right. Crystal said, "Hey guys, can you believe the FBI is already IDing the body? Crazy." Yeah, I know that. I'm pretty sure it was Crystal who sent me the tweet from Brian Ensign, who's been one of the people who's been on it with WFLA, the major news source out of Florida that's always running things. And he put out a statement, and he's been very much involved with getting info directly from FBI constantly, along with other parties. And he put out a tweet saying, quote, "New, the medical examiner says he does not expect to have an identification of the remains today." And can we not start playing things without? Thanks. He also said he also tweeted that we have learned the remains found in the Carlton Reserve were, quote, skeletal remains, quote, bones. So there's like a lot of info that he was getting. So I think we were all really shocked to find out that today we got the positive ID off of dental records. Crystal said, "I studied up on the Mia and this I studied up on Mia and this news haunted by the laundries." Yeah, it's something that I'll get into when we finally get to do our Mia breakdown and our timeline update, but it really is in a way hauntingly similar and just as upsetting because there is no like full closure of the justice system taking its course and going to court and having to fight for it. And there's something very I think freeing for a lot of people to be able to go to court and look at the person in the face, especially the families. I mean, the victim impact statements that the families get to put out in court are, I think, such a crucial moment for so many families and something that people really want to have happen. And for them to never have that opportunity is deeply upsetting. Yeah, Danette, I completely agree. Crystal said, "Hey to everybody." I didn't get a chance to pop in. Sorry, I'm gonna run through the comments really quickly now so that I can catch up. Dragon Man said, "Glad they found him. I'm afraid it might be a DB Cooper thing." Um, what a mood! Like I immediately, as soon as you said DB Cooper, I just immediately thought of Without a Paddle. It's a great movie. I need to rewatch that. I'm not sure what Nina meant here. Danette said, "I didn't see anything from the parents of Brian Laundrie." I saw something which was in the screen grab that I think it was Crystal that sent it today. But so it was on CNN and it was a screen grab that I used for my thumbnail. And it's this, I don't know, maybe this is old. But like I said, it says attorney reveals why Laundrie family didn't initially talk to, and then like dot dot dot. Nina says it's really hard to believe that the remains are those of Brian. I totally understand that. I think we're all trying to grapple with that right now. Um, I think a lot of people are in disbelief. I'm hearing a lot of conspiracy theories as to it wasn't really Brian or like just I think people are just like really in shock, and I think the situation is just such a weird one. Um so it's a little difficult, which I'll get into in a second. I'm just gonna pull this really quick. Crystal said, "I thought the statement was from the family lawyer was to Fox News." I don't know. It was just what I saw on that CNN screen grab that you sent. Lee just showed up. Welcome back, Lee. This is some wild news, so let me know what you think about it. And Chris said that screen grab was from this afternoon. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to figure out because sometimes they'll put like old video in there. But so to go back to the comment about being skeptical or feeling like it's hard to believe that the remains are those of Brian. Um, I think it's a really weird situation because to me, and I think to a lot of people, the question is, well, this is swampland, understandable. According to the FBI, this area, or at least according to the news, what they're reporting is that the area in which his body was found was underwater and was actually also where they found this backpack and the notebook. And to me, that leaves a lot of questions that are unanswered. To me, my first questions are how were those items even there if this area was underwater? Presumably, I think a lot of people know from watching all kinds of true crime and or cop dramas on TV that bodies float and things float. So to me, it's like, was he partially submerged in maybe mud or something? And that's why everything was still in the same place. Um, but to me, like, I'm not saying that anybody like foul play. But it doesn't add up to me that like a notebook and a backpack and a man would be in one place. Like, was there evidence that he'd been floating around? How did nobody see a body just floating around? Um, or these items just floating around? It's very strange to me. And also the other thing that's I would like to know is they say the backpack and a notebook. Well, was there anything else in the backpack? Where exactly was this notebook? Was it that they found the backpack and the notebook next to it and the body there? Was the notebook in the backpack? That's another weird thing for me. And how would you even really be able to ID a notebook that's been presumably underwater for all this time? All of those pages would be mush, all that info would be gone unless this isn't like a regular notebook. Maybe it's one of the waterproof kind. Um, but I think there's just so many weird things that like I'm hoping that soon ish the FBI will come out and give more information as to how they found all this stuff because to me it's just leaves a lot. It's a little strange from like a just a general knowledge physics standpoint. Um let's see. Lee said people had so many theories they can't understand how they were wrong, but there are still people saying it's a government cover up. Always want to have a few of those folks. Um yeah, that whole thing is strange. Like I don't see why the FBI would be covering things up or why the government would cover stuff up in this situation. It just doesn't make sense to me. Um, Especially with the entire public around the world. Like it's not even just the US, like how many people around the world have been following this case? Um, I don't think they're gonna cover anybody's ass. Like it's just not gonna happen. With everybody on their asses, like they're not gonna just cover that doesn't make sense to me, but something just doesn't add up. Like if 2 plus 2 is 4 and 5 plus 5 is 10, then what the fuck is this? Because it don't make no sense. If anybody's seen that meme, I I think it's hilarious. Nia says, did the parents guide the FBI there? There are some questions about this. I'm gonna pull up some stuff because I have been seeing some stuff saying that the parents were in fact the ones that brought them to this location. Or there was also a question as if the FBI were there when the body was located. So it's very everything is very confusing. Jeanette said my question exactly. Um, Lee said based on what was explained as blah, blah, based on what was explained of his behavior, I thought he would isolate and end it or allow it to be ended. It's creepy. Um, I also want to say really quickly because that um reminds me. I was talking to my one of my friends today about the case because she's been kind of on it with me, and we texted about it. Um, she was in disbelief as well, but something interesting that she said was, about these remains being skeletal, is going to leave another question behind potentially. Um, so she said, I want to know how they knew he was there for so long. Um, I'm guessing about the parents because there's that question about the parents are not knowing something or other. And then it said, but if they found just bones, they wouldn't be able to tell all manners of death. Certain things, she said, like a hanging or a gunshot, she would, but animal attack, not necessarily. Um, so I think that's a really interesting point. Even if it was like something having to do with a knife, you wouldn't necessarily know what exactly happened. So that's like another question that might be left behind for everybody, which is really sad, especially for Gabby's parents. Like they're never gonna know. Um and it and if his parents genuinely didn't know what he was doing, or that maybe if he did end it, that's a question that his parents are gonna have for the rest of their lives of potentially that, what happened, and that's sad for them too. Nina says none of it makes sense. Yeah, I agree. Crystal said Brian left his parents and his sister in the spotlight. Even if they helped him, the guilt alone, this all could have ended differently. Yeah. I um I know there's been so much pressure on the entire Laundry family, and um if this was, especially if this was a case against all the odds of what everybody was assuming, and pointing the finger at them, if they truly didn't really know what the fuck was going on, I feel very bad for them. I feel I either way, it's nobody's business to be pressuring these people that the way that the public has, and the way that these people who are wanting to call themselves protesters but are reality just, in my opinion, in reality are harassing them. It doesn't matter what you've done or what you're doing, like the law is a law, like, you don't get to just harass people, and I think that was wrong. Danette said, "That is funny how the parents knew exactly where to look." Yeah, we're gonna have to pull up video and find out about that because it's really strange. Um, Dragon Man said, "Some people were commenting that the mom was dressed in black earlier today, morning time." That's weird. I think though, like, I think a lot of people assume that it was like, immediately assume that it was him because of what was, like, ID'd, like, next to him. So I think, like, it makes sense. Like, I think it's understandable to an extent, like, that they would be doing that. Um, Lee says there's a video of a Fox reporting, or I guess a Fox reporter, following them around while searching and when they found stuff. And Lee said they know where he liked to go and what trees he probably climbed. I think they just looked in the obvious places to them. I think so too. I think that's a big possibility that they just knew. Um, they seem to be a camping family and outdoorsy people. So there's probably certain places they've been going forever and a day. I mean, who knows? They maybe even from like a little kid, they used to take Brian out there and he used to like to climb certain places and go certain places, and that's just always where he liked to go. I think that's definitely really possible. They said I wouldn't have let him leave the house that day, honestly. Um, I think it's a tough call. I don't think anybody really thought that it was gonna end this way, and I doubt that his parents really thought that he would, do that if it is a case that he did end it himself. But let's see if I can find this video from Fox. 1 second, guys. All right, might as well show you guys the screen. Oh, you guys couldn't even hear that. Hold on. Fox Digital. Okay. Let me give me 1 second. Let me just see if I can pull this up. Fox remains found in reserve. Maybe I'll have a little bit of an easier time. Everything is like, okay, let's try this one. It says the attention shifts to parents after human remains found. Um, Crystal said the Laundries should have answered the phone call from Gabby's lawyer. I don't know what phone call you're talking about. Maybe I missed something. And said lawyered up, but came with some kind of story to tell the cops, and they should send condolences to the family. I mean, I could totally understand, the condolences part. I don't know. I think it's tough. I think that's really tough. I think that legally they're probably in a really tough position, and like I think it's just difficult. Phone calls from Gabby's family at the beginning. Okay. Yeah, I think the whole thing is really difficult, and I think it's one of those things where I can't even begin to imagine the position that his family's been put in because of this whole situation. And we don't know what Brian did or didn't tell them, what he might have said to, at all. Um, and I think it's really difficult, and we also don't know like what their lawyer told them to do or not do. Um, yeah, see, that's the thing. Dragonman said Bertolino told the news they were following his orders not to talk. Yeah, that I think that's the number one. Um, and it's something that I've definitely learned from where I work, is that number one thing that a lawyer is going to tell you is to shut the fuck up. If you're smart, you shut the fuck up. If you're smart, you don't post on social media. You don't say anything to anybody, you don't make any comments about anything. Um, and you let the lawyer handle it, whether or not you're guilty of anything. That's not an admission of guilt, it's just protecting yourself from legal ramifications because you see something dumb, you know? And I think that's pretty much the first line of defense when it comes to like an attorney's arsenal, is to tell the client to be quiet. Lisa said, I hope they explain, although they don't have to, but whatever they say now, no one will believe them. Yeah, I definitely agree with the last part of the statement. To me, I think that probably the smartest thing that they can do is to just try to walk away from this and just be quiet and walk away, because it's true. Nobody is gonna believe anything out of their mouth. And even if they would have said stuff from the beginning, nobody would have believed them because of the nature of the situation. Um, and so, like, at the end of the day, I think that the only thing that's gonna happen if they do come out and say anything is people are gonna twist what they say. They're gonna be terrible. They're just gonna continue to bombard them. I'm sure people are still gonna continue to harass them. Um, at this point, you know, I hope that from here on, maybe the FBI or law enforcement gets involved and helps put them in a safe space and relocate somewhere else, because they do deserve to have lives. Just because this situation happened doesn't mean that your lives should be tainted for the rest of eternity. Like, they should be allowed to have normal civilian productive lives. And I think this entire situation is really unfortunate. And I do feel bad for for both families, um, in different ways and in some of the same ways. It's tragic to lose a child. It's just it's such a mess. Danette said, "It's strange they wouldn't ask where Gabby was when he got home. They knew I would have asked my son." Um, I mean, we don't know what he said or didn't say. He might have said, I mean, to me, the way he probably could have covered it up was, well, me and Gabby fought, we said fuck you. Gabby flew home and I went back, or whatever it was, or Gabby wanted to stay and I wanted to go, and whatever. There's ways of getting around things. Maybe they knew, maybe they didn't know. But at the end of the day, I think, like, I'm not gonna sit here and um talk down to them or harass them either way. I think that they're parents, and I don't think any parent would have known that their kid was gonna go off. Like, if this is the case that he did go off to the preserve to, like, go off himself, I don't think that it would I don't think that they would have let him go if they thought that he was gonna go do that to himself. Um that I don't ever think that a parent would just let their kid, like, off themselves. So I'm gonna put Crystal's thing up first, because I think Lee's stuff kind of um played into the answer of this. Crystal said, I see your point about the lawyers telling them to shut the fuck up, but Gabby lived with them. I just can't imagine playing this out like the Laundries have. In my opinion, they are not good people. I think that's your opinion. I'm not gonna pass judgment as to whether or not they're good people. We don't know the full situation of anything. We will never know what was said behind closed doors, and that's just the fact of the matter of life, to be honest. Um, and to kind of go off of that, Lee said he did fly back mid-trip. It would have seemed there were problems and talks of breaking up, possibly lots of things could have been said. I think that's I think that's a really, really good point, Lee. I think it is. That the flying back in the middle, and I'm sure you're gonna come home and you're gonna be like, mom and dad are gonna be like, well, what's up? Why are you here by yourself? Oh, well, we're having problems. I hate this trip. She fucking sucks. Blah 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 blah. You know what I mean? Like, you're gonna talk there. Like, inevitably, it's possible that he could have came home, talked shit, went back, yada yada yada. And that could have already set the scene for what would have happened later, and it not seeming so weird when he came back without her. Danette said, so when Gabby's parents called to say, where is Gabby, they didn't know. I mean, it's like, we don't know what he said or didn't say. then said, "Well," said Crystal, I think people are making all a lot of different good points. I just think that, like, I'm not gonna although I know to a lot of people this situation, um, is going to sound like like a very far stretch that they didn't know, um, and what you this I think, like, at this point, because there's nobody left to try, like, this is not gonna end up going to court. Like, I don't think there's anything else that they can do, which is what I've heard, at least from when Mia Marcano's stuff happened, and her the alleged person that killed her, like, killed himself. Um, it's one of those things where we're not gonna have that play out in court, where everything's gonna, like, be put out in front of everybody. And then things can be parsed out from there, and if there was an indication that they were involved in covering up for him, then, his parents would have been tried too, but I don't think that's gonna happen at this point because there is nobody to try. Um, Lee said, and there was talks of a condo, and they didn't actually live with them, according to Gabby's friend. Yeah, who I don't even know. The living situation was a little strange. Project Achieva says, "What freaks me out is, quote, identified by dental records, end quote. Did they find a skull? I guess. They did say that it was bones. Um, they said they said partial skull. Did they do you know if they specified, like, what they meant by partial skull? Like, was that, like, quite literally only part of a skull was found? Or was that, like, part of his flesh was still there and it was part skull?" Um, Sorry, I, like, had to laugh to, like, make that a little bit more palatable for me to say. Going on that dental records whole thing, and I'll come back to you guys. Um, Nina said, "That was very fast how they used dental records to verify the remains." Yeah, that was literally my thought exactly. Like, how the fuck how did they how did they get his dental records so quickly? Like, wouldn't you have to subpoena that? That takes time. Like, what the heck? I mean, I guess because this is national or actually international news, actually, there's probably a bigger pressure to, like, get stuff done and have things, like, push through the process quicker, but it's, like, an issue. Crystal said they just said skull and before they called them skeleton remains or skeletal remains, yeah. And I guess, like, I would love to speak to I would love to speak to somebody in law enforcement to tell me whether or not anything can be done, or a lawyer, whether or not anything can be done after the fact. Like, if somebody the prime suspect of the crime, offs himself, is there anything that can still be done? And be somebody who's a forensic scientist to explain the stages of decomposition, and different things like that, you know, blood splatter and decomposition, and just more forensic evidence stuff would be really helpful in understanding the whole case. Um, because it's really interesting, but it has been what we're at towards the end of October. He came back September 1 and then was gone, like a week later to the reserve. So that is almost, you know, it's a good month and a half in the wilderness, in the water and the muck and stuff. Like, I guess it would make sense that it would just be bones at this point because, obviously, like, if you guys are squeamish about, like, bones and flesh and animals eating and decomposition, um, it, it to me it's like, how would it I think the first thought that a lot of us had was, how did it turn to bones so quickly. But that is a month and a half of it being in the water, like his remains being in like some kind of water, standing water maybe. Um, Plus any kind of scavengers, not to mention we don't know if he did off himself or if it was an animal attack. There's always gonna be scavenger animals that are gonna want to pick it clean, but then at the same time it's like, well, how much did they really find there? Because if these scavenger animals are consuming, then um wouldn't they be taking some of the bones with them? Like not every animal's gonna leave the bones behind. So it's like one of those really strange things. Um where I guess we're gonna have to wait for more stuff from the coroner's office, and from forensic scientists. We did have a new person come on in named Exit Screaming. Welcome. This was kind of an interesting thing that it talked about, just like a side note. Just curious, all those people who kept posting online that they were positive he wasn't there, was on the run, being financed his parents out of the country, etc. Are they embarrassed now? Um, I think I don't know. I'm not in their brain. I'm not one of the people who was like certain that he was gone somewhere else. I've always said that it could be anywhere. Um, I think it would be interesting to see what happens with this is one thing that I thought about though before was, Dog was like hunting him in that island. Like, what happened with that? Like, where's Dog the bounty hunter now? I don't know. Like, that would be really funny to hear like what he has to say, or if something, or if he feels embarrassed or whatever. I don't know. Project Achieva said, I was at the dentist yesterday. I was thinking if something bad happened to me, they would contact my dentist. Freaky. Yeah, it is a really weird thing to think about. It's something I've thought about before, and it's just so strange. Yeah, this is a good point as to what could happen afterwards. Which is something that I did see and I was gonna cover today, but here we are instead. Um, so Mia's family has just filed a civil case against the apartment complex and the estate of I forgot the killer name who committed the suicide. Yeah, that's the other thing that I was thinking is the estate of, but like to me the apartment complex makes sense from what I've learned, um working around like law type stuff. um they A lot of times what I've seen is like if they can't go after a person or whatever, from what I've started to understand, it's like, well, you go after their, like, I guess estate, like you said, but if like they're alive, then it's like I've seen them even try to go after their like homeowners insurance, um, which is another thing. But I think like the guy who like killed himself and like killed her and then killed himself, like that dude was broke. Like I'm saying this from like a lawyer standpoint of like what I've seen is like you if the person doesn't have anything under their own name, like they don't have a house or they don't have a car, or maybe they do have a car, but they don't own their own home, and they're just working somewhere making minimum wage, like there's not a whole lot to take. Like there's not a whole lot to like fight for because they didn't have anything. And this guy who killed Mia, or you know, he was working two jobs as like a maintenance guy at apartment complex like in Orlando. You're not going to make that much money. He lived in a rundown apartment complex. It's one of those things where there's not going to be much to come out of his estate, and I can't imagine there would be much out of Brian's estate because they were early 20-year-olds traveling the country who sold everything. There's not going to be much there. Dragon Man said, I know this is a small complaint, but I don't like people to be made fun of because of their names. dirty laundries, leaving laundry baskets on their yard, stuff like that. I also don't like that at all. I think that was incredibly unnecessary and rude. I think that those are the things that changes something from a debate or a protest into, in my opinion, more of a harassment line. Doing stuff like that, or saying somebody, like I said, the two main protesters that were always at their house had flyers and shirts made that said wanted murderer with Brian's face on them. To me, that changes things, because you're saying something as if it's fact, like that's slander at that point. And the way that they would literally, it was like they were blackmailing them. You want me to, I want to go home. I know you want me to go home, so just go cooperate with police. If you want me to shut up and if you want me to not be in your face anymore, then go do what I want you to do. Like, I think, to me, that is harassment. um Crystal said embarrassed, and she was talking about, I'm assuming, exit screaming and their take on people posting online and stuff like that. Not sure that is the right take. How about this case has been a roller coaster of twists and turns? I agree. I think that's a great take, Crystal. I think that this really has been a roller coaster. Give me 1 second. Let me just, my screen decided it was time to go into night mode, and I'm gonna tell it no. It is not the right time to go into night mode. Please don't do that. It's a little jarring. Thank you. Cool. Um, Lee said the people using the professional expertise are probably embarrassed a little. Yeah, I think that's definitely possible. I don't know who you mean by LE, but Chris said Brian was probably already passed away before well, I guess before LE, like law enforcement, made their statement about knowing where Brian was. That's embarrassing. Yeah. I think it was, I think, like, I know I definitely questioned why they kept going back, and like what they know or didn't know, why law enforcement kept going back to the reserve. Um, so I think that it was really interesting. 1 second, sorry, I need some water and I thought I brought mine up. Um, I think it was really interesting to see them going back, and it was something that I think I know I questioned, and I think a lot of people were questioning why law enforcement kept going back to the reserve and why they were so persistent on it. But I guess it paid off in a way, because that's where he was in fact found. Um, yeah, I agree, and that's what I would, how I would feel too. Um, I would also want that person found responsible in court. The unfortunate thing is that from an attorney standpoint, if there's no money in it, um, 9 times out of 10, they're not gonna take your case. More like 99 times out of 100, they're not gonna take your case. So it's one of those things that I don't know how that would all go. I think, Nina, I think you make a really, really excellent point. Thank you for pointing this out. Um, It says, as much as I like to believe that Brian was guilty, no one knows what really happened. Which I again is something that I keep trying to reinforce, and I appreciate you reinforcing it, because it is easy to. I think once somebody, or once the prime suspect um is gone, once they've off themselves, I think that it leaves it a lot more open um to assume that they are the guilty party, which isn't necessarily the case. We don't know. We will probably never know unless something happens, something major happens. I don't know how that would go legally speaking. Like I said, um, it's one of those things where I don't know how they could do it legally speaking, that the court would actually take it to be able to go out and show the proof and the timeline, and say that he was guilty or he wasn't guilty, or how that all works. Um, So I'm gonna um exit screaming made a comment. Um I'm just gonna say that like I don't know this question. I don't know if people can sue them because of this. I don't know how that would work. I think there's a difference though, like when it comes to like slander and libel and all that sort of stuff. Like I think like that is in a way like or defamation, I guess. Like the level of defamation that would be comparatively to people who were saying outright that Brian was a murderer. I think that's like a whole nother level of defamation. So I don't know how that would work. I'm personally not a lawyer. But I will say that I do not, and this is something that I've had a rant on before on my channel on another live. I am not a fan of John Walsh. I've never been a fan of John Walsh. I kind of just was like, well, he's there. I didn't have like a lack of respect for him or anything. But the way that he's handled this entire situation was incredibly unprofessional. Um, and just plain wrong. And I hope that people quote hold him accountable to the way that he acted in this situation because and I would like to remind everybody, especially in the light of everything, in the light of him being found of Brian being found dead, potentially having offed himself, that John Walsh went on national television and talked as if he was talking to him and said the best thing that you can do is kill yourself. The best thing that Brian can do at this point is kill himself on national television, and that went fucking unchecked. And I will get mad about this one, even though I try my best to stay level headed. How dare John Walsh be able to go on national television and tell somebody to kill themselves? And he was the first one to go out and start on national television calling them the goddamn dirty laundries. Like, that is so uncalled for, so not okay, and I hope that people can't hold him accountable, but unfortunately, nobody is. And that made me incredibly mad, and I hope that somebody more powerful than I am, with more of a voice than I do, more of a platform, calls him out because it's bullshit. You do not have a right to go on anywhere and tell somebody to kill themselves or that the right thing to do is to kill themselves. Ever. Not in a million years. Never. That was fucked up. And I'm not mad at you, Exit Screaming. I'm mad at John Walsh for his actions. And I think that his character was really shown in the way that he treated this whole situation. Project Shiva said, if Brian told his parents the truth, they are the key to knowing what happened now. But we don't know if he told them the truth. We don't know anything. I mean, maybe he told them partial truths and lies, and all mixed up in between. We don't know. We don't have Brian. It's just not something that we have. Exit Streaming said, agree 100% Natty. I'm glad. Like I said, I'm not mad at you. I'm mad at how John Walsh has acted. I think it is awful. Lee said when he went on that rant, that was out of line. People let it go because of his past and how many cases he has helped with. Yeah, I think that was out of line, and I don't think that should excuse like his past behaviors does not excuse his present behaviors. And to me, what I care about more than a person's past is a person's present. Show me who you are now. I think a lot of people judge, and I'm saying this like in general, like there are a lot of people out there who have done bad things in their past, things that they regret. I think like a good person in this case in to reference in this whole Brian Gabby case who came out was Dog the Bounty Hunter, had a bad past. When he was a lot younger, he had a bad past. He ended up in jail for some really bad stuff, and people were questioning him on that. But to me, Dog, that was decades ago. That's not the person he is today. And I'm not going to judge somebody on something they did decades ago, especially when in Dog's case has turned his life around, become somebody who's worked with law enforcement, has helped bring people to justice, has helped to help other people to turn their lives around and give people other like chances and stuff. um I judge you on who you are now, not who you were in the past. I think that a lot of people could do with that because people do change. And I think people would uh live a lot better lives if they could reframe things a little bit and not continue to judge people on their past actions if they have genuinely changed their life. And that flip-flops. Some people were genuinely good people and then ended up becoming genuinely bad people. um if that's who you are in the present, then that's who I'm going to judge you on, not who you were in the past. And not judge as like condemn, but like everybody at the end of the day judges people on their character and their integrity and those as to who they want around them in their life. And that's my kind of thinking. If you're a good person today, now, the day that it is currently, who you are in front of me, if you are a genuinely good person, if you respect me and you respect other people around me and around us, then you are more than welcome. That's just how I live my life personally. Um, Going back really quick because I didn't get to grab this comment. Dragon Man said, I can't really understand, quote, justice for Gabby because nothing will bring her back. She's passed away. And said, I mean, no disrespect. Um, yeah, I think it's a little bit difficult in this situation, especially now that like the prime suspect is no longer alive. I think it's different, or it feels justice for a person if they've been murdered feels a lot more tangible if the murderer is living and can be tried in a court of law. Um, but in this case, that's not gonna happen unless some crazy thing comes out of left field that he wasn't the murderer. Um, it's it's one of those things. I guess like the justice would be to somehow figure out how to prove that it was somebody in particular. That would be, I guess, the next level of justice. I think there's like levels, right? There's tiers. There's somebody gets hurt and that person is dealt with. um that person isn't around to be dealt with. Well, then what's the next step? Is it going after their estate? Is it like in Mia's case, separate case, Mia going after the apartment complex? um is it going after maybe the family who may have known and may have been an accessory to the crime? I think there's just different levels. But I guess, yeah, nothing can bring her back. But I think that like I think people want more of a always want more of a resolution than, well, like, she's dead, she's dead. Like, people don't really want to hear that. Um yeah, I that no truer words have been spoken. Being a good person is 100% a daily exercise. And that's who I think people should be seen for, the person who they are today. Um, and it says, has anyone questioned their mental health when the cops stopped them? There were scratches on Brian's face or neck. So many things could have happened in a heated moment. Yeah, I think it's a big problem. It's it. I think the mental health has been questioned, but I think a lot of people didn't want to at the same time because it is like a. I think some people were and some people weren't. I think people who were mental health like advocates or people who are um you know I guess like that's the only real word, is like people who are to try to champion mental health and mental health awareness and stuff like that. Didn't really want to get into the mental health stuff just because it's not anybody's business to an extent. Like, I openly talk on my channel about my mental health struggles, but like I'm doing that of my own free will and volition, as a human being, but, like, it's if I wasn't doing that publicly, it wouldn't be anybody else's right to, like, put my business out there. So I think it's, like, one of those weird, tricky subjects, but I think it is something people have questioned. Um, a lot of things could happen in the heat of a moment. I will say though, like, and it, the just to like recall, the um the cause of death that was ruled on Gabby's case was strangulation. That would take quite some time to do. I think that's more it's a lot more than a heated moment, to, like, carry out literally strangling or suffocating the life away out of somebody takes a lot more than that's more than 30 seconds, it's more than a split second. Crystal said, "Heated moment, it takes 3 to 5 minutes, that's a long heated moment." Um, yeah, I don't know if I'm guessing Crystal probably has the right numbers on that. I don't know how long it takes to strangle somebody. I guess that would make sense, 3 to 5 minutes. That's a really long time to you're literally watching the life fade away out of somebody's eyes for several minutes. Um, it doesn't make sense. Like, I don't know. I think that was like I can't imagine what state you have to be in to do that to somebody. Like, unless it was like the person like was seeing red and like fucking blacked out, but like even then like that would be a lot. I don't know. Um Lisa, in the stop when they asked him if he took meds, they muted the audio and he was taking, then said, "I don't take meds." And said that was a long answer just to say no. Um, so he might have some issues he doesn't take meds for. I mean, it's totally possible. It's like so many questions that we're probably never gonna have answers for. Crystal said, "Lee, at the end of the video at the hotel, Brian talks more about the meds he should be taking for his anxiety, but it decided not to." Um, I maybe I missed that part of the video. Oof, oof. Is that when the cop was talking about his wife? I know that he was talking about his wife, but I don't think they weren't at a hotel. Like they were at the unless it was he went into more detail about his issue with his ex-wife. Which I will clarify, he did say it was his ex-wife. And said that cop wonder what his ex-wife said when the video came out. Um, Chris said, yeah, that's when he was talking about his wife at the very end, or his ex-wife, to clarify, his ex-wife. Um, yeah, I do feel really, and I've continued to say this, and I've felt bad about this since day one. I feel very bad for that cop. Um, because I think he was genuinely trying to help, and I think a lot of people have blamed him for Gabby's death, and I think that's utter bullshit. Like, nobody is responsible for anybody's death but the person who literally the blood is on their hands. Um, the only person who is responsible for Gabby's death is whoever quite literally wrapped their fingers around her neck and watched her die for several minutes. Um, so I feel very bad for him, and I think that that cop was trying really hard to empathize with them and with Brian and to make him understand that like that was a toxic situation that they were in and that he used to be in a toxic situation and not necessarily that it really got physical. I think he was just saying I that he had a very toxic relationship with his ex-wife. And that's why it's his ex-wife now. And I think that like when he was trying to have a personal moment with somebody, um it's really sad that, like, his very personal moment he was trying to have with somebody to kinda have, like, a for lack of a better word, like, come to Jesus moment, but, like, not in a religious way. It's now that man's life and his past is what he's gonna be judged on, and his past has been put on blast when he was just trying to help somebody. Um, and I feel very bad for that cop because it's nobody's fucking business that he was in a toxic relationship. And I'm sure that people, because of his gender, are gonna assume that he was the aggressor, like the cop, in his like past marriage and like a lot of things, and I think that's wrong. It's nobody's business as to what happened. Um, Jagaman said I had to watch a webinar that was work related, and they were talking about dealing with people who are in a state of rage that they turn into something else, no rational thought. Yeah, I think like that's a big part of it too. Like we don't know what was going across whoever did kill Gabby's mind when they did that, or what state they were in, and that's why I said, maybe that person genuinely blacked out. That genuinely does happen to people when they are in a state of rage, in a fight, in a lot of different situations where it's one on one and it's you against them or whatever the case may be, um, that you literally black out and don't know what you're going on. You're just going. Um, Nina said exactly that's what I'm thinking about. It's one of those things where we just don't know what happened and we're never gonna be inside of that person's brain. I do agree. I wish they would have talked to the witnesses. Crystal is talking about the witnesses at the Moonflower Cafe. I mean the cafe, the Moonflower Co-op, where witnesses saw Brian and Gabby in an altercation in which the witnesses say that they did see Brian hitting Gabby. Um, but yeah, I wish that they would have done that and maybe things would have been different. But again, it's um shoulda, coulda, woulda kind of a thing. We can't go back in time and change anything. Um, we can't, like, nobody can. Like that's just not how life works. Um And I think that the cops did the best that they could in the situation. Um, and it's just the entire thing is really unfortunate. And I think like if we fixate on the cops and what happened there and if they could have changed the course of time, well, to me anything could have changed the course of time. Any little tweak could have changed the course of time. Um is it's like we could think about that old, forever and a day, what could have been done differently to stop this timeline events, and I'm sure some will argue that there was nothing that could have been done to stop this a timeline of events because of if this was a situation where it was an abusive relationship, the people are not going to leave, like that's until they're ready to leave or until unfortunately in this situation they wind up dead. They have to come out of it on their own. People who are in an abusive relationship have to come out on it come out of it on their own. Um, Krista said locked out of her van, climbing the window not to be left behind. Those are red flags. I do agree. And Nina's also agreeing with you that those are big red flags. Um, Lee said, "Oh, I read the transcripts. He went from seeing ex-wife to wife." I think I might have missed something at the end then, but I know that for a long time he was saying ex-wife, ex-wife, ex-wife. I don't know if maybe that was just a slip that he just um didn't mean to, and maybe he was still talking about his ex-wife, but I don't know what he said at the end. I'm not sure. Chris said I noticed that too. And Lee said, yeah, Brian did say his doctor told him he has anxiety and got meds, but doesn't take them. Yeah. Ugh, it's such a bad situation. I will say though, as somebody who does mental health advocacy and also like pretty much freaking everyone has anxiety, um, I really hope people don't start twisting the narrative because anxiety, like not saying that Lee is saying this at all, but I'm just saying the way that people act online and everywhere, some people still demonize mental health issues. And I'm sure some people will start saying that, oh, well, he had anxiety, he didn't take his meds, he was cuckoo or whatever the fuck they want to say. But they'll start blaming the anxiety and say that that made him a killer. And it's like, no, anxiety doesn't make you a fucking killer. Like, like anxiety would make you kind of do the opposite. Like anxiety makes you want to go crawl up in a ball and never be seen again. Like that's what anxiety makes you do, not. So it's really upsetting that like I'm sure some people will start saying that garbage. Um Maybe, who knows. Um Literally anything is possible. Um I completely agree with Lee. You know, the whole situation is weird from beginning to now. Um Hopefully something good comes out of this. I know that the organization is going to happen. They're create Gabby's all of Gabby's parents, the four of them, you know, her biological parents and her two step parents have all come together and they're making that organization. So hopefully that's the nice thing that's going to come out of all of this. Um but with all of this being said, um Crystal said yes, very weird, still so many. Yeah, this whole situation is weird. But hopefully the good things, some good will come out of this. Hopefully some news will come out of this where somebody will do something, maybe something's taken to court, who knows. Maybe against the estate, like somebody said earlier. Um, but all that being said, I am personally exhausted and really need to go to bed. So I'm going to head out for the night here. I really appreciate everybody who's been hanging out with me. If you're new or if you haven't yet done so, I would encourage you to subscribe and hit the bell, and turn it to all notifications because I will continue to talk about Gabby's case, and any other developments that happen from here. I am going to be going back and covering Mia Marcano's case very soon from beginning to end, the whole timeline of events, and continue to cover Mia's. And I'm going to be talking about some more missing persons cases very soon, like Summer Wells and the twin, not the twins, um, Summer Wells, Orrin and Orson West, um, Larry Millet was another case that you guys wanted me to talk about. I don't think that's a missing persons case though. That's not a missing persons case. And then another, we're gonna be covering some missing persons cases, which is the Summer Wells, the West brothers, and then some murder cases, which are the Larry Millet case and the Gypsy Hill murders as requested by you guys. If you guys have any other suggestions or anything else you guys want me to talk about, any other missing persons cases, let me know. Like I said, I'm on Discord now, so I would encourage you guys all to join that so you guys get to stay up to date as to when I will be live streaming. Um, and I think that is everything. Um, Crystal said Larry Millet, his wife, is missing. I thought you said though that he is being said that he is be officially going to be tried as like, or he's officially being said to like be her murderer even though she's still missing or something. I don't know. I have to look into that. But anyways, thank you guys again. Like I said, I hope everybody subscribes if you aren't already. And I will see you guys very soon. I hope that you all stay safe and stay well and be careful out there. And lots of love. Bye guys, good night.